Does the government work for us or do we work for the government? The Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and everyone who works for the government takes an oath to uphold it. Tonight, the president violates the Constitution. A principal foundation of American government is the rule of law. This is a value which we happily inherited from Great Britain, where the king was once an absolute monarch. There came a time in which Parliament actually debated the following question: is the king superior to the rule of law, or is the rule of law superior to the king? Though our 21st century minds might chuckle at such a debate, people in England lost their lives over it. Eventually, the debate was won in favor of the rule of law, and begrudgingly, even the king acknowledged that he was subject to the law just like everyone else. When the American Republic was founded, after the colonists had seceded from Great Britain, it was a given that the rule of law would be a building block of our society here. And the framers of the Constitution understood this when they guaranteed due process, that is, predictability and fairness from the government. The rule of law has come to mean that the laws of the land apply to everyone. No one is above the law, meaning no one is free to disobey it with impunity, and no one is below the law, meaning it cannot be used to prosecute someone for reasons other than that person's alleged criminal behavior. If this were not so, then whoever heads the government would be a king. President Obama himself, when he was a senator from Illinois, correctly criticized then-President George W. Bush for signing a bill into law, making it a crime for federal agents to open and read your mail without a search warrant, and stating that he had no intention of enforcing the law. It is a self-evident truth that if the president can pick and choose which laws to enforce and which to permit to be violated, if he can decide which parts of the Constitution to follow and which to ignore, if he can treat the law as if he were in a cafeteria, some of this, some of that, none of the other, then we don't have the rule of law and we don't have a president, but instead we have a king. So how is President Obama doing? Pretty bad. He too has signed bills into law stating that he won't enforce them as they're written. He started a war in Libya without a declaration of war from Congress, as the Constitution requires. He has appointed hundreds of personal assistants, sometimes called czars, and has given them the power to run vast aspects of the government from the White House, contrary to law. He has permitted federal agents to listen to your telephone calls, to read your mail, and to monitor your keystrokes on your computer, all without search warrants from judges, as the Constitution requires. He has put Americans on an assassination hit list and has targeted them for killing, even though they have not been charged or convicted of any crime, much less sentenced to death. He has announced that hundreds of persons captured in the past 10 years in the government's so-called war on terror will not get trials, no matter what the Constitution requires or the Supreme Court says. And he has permitted federal agents to use torture, even though the Constitution itself, as well as 3 treaties and 4 federal statutes and 50 state statutes, prohibit it. What are we to do? Well, you might not be a victim, and you might even hate the victims of the president's lawlessness. But if it goes unchecked, then we are back to that strange-sounding argument in the British Parliament, where the king, we call him the president, but he behaves like a king, is not subject to the same laws as the rest of us. And if you permit this president to break the law because he hates your enemy, you are planting the seeds for a future president to break the law because he hates you. As Robert Bolt reminded us in his play A Man for All Seasons, the law protects everyone's freedom. If we let the president cut down the law to get to a devil, what will we do when the devil turns around and pursues us and there is no law for our protection? We at Freedom Watch will continue to be your night watchmen, but we can only do so if we have the rule of law. From New York, defending freedom every night of the week. So long, America.